2013 NFL Draft.
First pick in the 2013 NFL Draft.
A Thursday towards the end of every April is supposed to be a time for a new beginning. That's if you are one of the teams in the NFL that have a first round pick. For the team that has the number one overall pick, they are typically coming off of the most miserable, near winless season. And in 2012 for the Kansas City Chiefs, it wasn't just a down year, but one full of tragedy. More than a dark cloud that hovered over the franchise as planes pulling banners calling for the administration to be fired, while the team put up a 2-14 record. 2012 led to a complete overhaul of the front office and the coaching staff for the Kansas City Chiefs. So that April, just like the spring for nature means rebirth, was the same for the Kansas City Chiefs and new hope for the other 29 teams who had a slot in the first round. They were all looking for the missing link to fill a void and to pave the path that leads to dancing under Super Bowl confetti. There are always hits and misses in every draft class, but when it came to the 2013 NFL Draft, it was a complete collapse, starting with a very out of the ordinary number one overall pick. Now, before we jump into the content, let us know if you want us to cover any other draft class in particular. Whichever comment gets the most upvotes in the comment section down below will be the draft class we cover next. Now that we get all that out of the way, break! Most number one overall picks tend to be quarterbacks or at least a player that earns fantasy football points. Yet the Kansas City Chiefs felt that they already had their needs at quarterback met when they traded for Alex Smith. So they were doing okay in that position. And that trade ended up being a very good move in hindsight, as the 2013 quarterback prospect list entering the NFL looked like a list of backups at best. Manuel and Geno Smith were the top names. So brand new general manager John Dorsey and head coach Andy Reid selected what they deemed was the best available player. That superstar, or so they thought, was an offensive lineman out of a mid-major school, Central Michigan, who they gave the symbolic number one jersey to. He received a lot of money as well, $14.5 million to be exact, and his name is Eric Fisher. Now, Eric Fisher didn't end up being a complete bust, but he sure wasn't great the first time he pulled on that red jersey, or the next season or the season after. Fisher didn't make a Pro Bowl until 2018, but was the only constant on the Chiefs offensive line from the 2013 season to 2020. Still, he is considered to be the second worst number one pick in the past 10 plus years, with only quarterback Sam Bradford beating him out. Fisher never received the respect a first pick should have bestowed, yet he didn't try to earn it either. For example, at first he was too scared to block JJ Watt. Fisher is 6'7", 306 pounds, and the tackle eventually had a Super Bowl ring and went from needing multiple takes to film a Tide commercial his rookie year due to his shyness, to pouring a fan's beer over him as he celebrated the AFC Championship and feeling the love from Chiefs Kingdom and a nice sponsorship from Bud Light. Yet the fact that an offensive lineman was the number one overall pick of the 2013 NFL Draft foreshadows why it is deemed one of the worst draft classes ever. Within 5 years, only 1/4 of the players selected in the first round were on their original teams. Let's look at some of the other so-called top prospects that were called that Thursday in April 2013. In 2013, there were surprisingly 3 offensive tackles taken in the first 4 picks. With the number 2 overall pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars picked left tackle Luke Joeckel out of Texas A&M. He was a player who, before the draft, was considered as the next coming of Joe Thomas, but within a year, he was considered the Jaguars' worst draft bust ever. Joeckel lasted 4 seasons, made 39 starts, and hasn't played in a game since 2017, and that was not with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but with the Seattle Seahawks. With the 3rd pick in the 2013 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins went with Dion Jordan, a defensive end out of Oregon who moved from the wide receiver position his freshman year to the defensive end. In 3 collegiate seasons, he had 14.5 sacks with 121 tackles, while standing 6'6" and 248 pounds Browns with a lightning fast 4.6 40-yard dash. The Dolphins had traded picks number 12 and 42 to move up to the number 3 overall spot to draft the very fast big man, and Miami happily handed him nearly $20 million. It was a transaction that didn't end up working out for either party. Deion Jordan was more than likely distracted by the South Beach lifestyle with a pocket full of crisp bills and unfortunately fell into drug addiction and then had several injuries. By 2015, he was serving a 1-year suspension for failing drug tests, a mistake that cost him $5.6 million. In 2016, after he was reinstated, he injured his knee and was placed on the IR list. By 2017, he was off the Miami Dolphins roster. The Philadelphia Eagles, and especially Chip Kelly, who was way over his head while watching Andy Reid's every move, tried to play copycat, and with Philadelphia's first pick in the 2013 NFL Draft, selected Lane Johnson, an offensive tackle out of the University of Oklahoma. It was a stretch as he had only played 2 years at the top 5 school on the line, and originally he was a quarterback and tight end at Kilgore Junior College before transferring to OU to become a tight end before he suddenly got really big, like size-wise, and moved to the quarterback protection crew. In his rookie season, he started every game for the Philadelphia Eagles and was the Iron Man of the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. In 2014, Lane Johnson was suspended 4 games without pay for violating the NFL substance abuse policy for using performance-enhancing drugs. In 2015, he was named the 10th best tackle by Pro Football Focus and was rewarded in 2016 with a $63 million contract extension to only be suspended for 10 games that season due to a PED violation. Yet, it may have been a better pick than many realize, with the many hiccups along the way. In 2017, he helped the Philadelphia Eagles win a Super Bowl, was named a Pro Bowler, a first-team All-Pro, and cracked the NFL's top 100 players list. In 2019, he received a $72 million contract extension that made him the highest-paid lineman in the league. Currently, he has struggled openly with anxiety and depression, but has been a productive player when he's on the field. With the 5th overall pick in the 2013 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions selected defensive end Ezekiel Ziggy Ansah out of BYU, a native of Ghana who failed to make the BYU basketball team but showed incredible athletic ability. He made the football team as a walk-on due to his athleticism alone, but the issue with him was he was fairly raw as a prospect. In his first practice, he had to have help with his equipment as he never put on shoulder pads before. Ansah barely played until his senior season but was thrusted into a starting role when the Cougars' nose guard went down with injury, at a position he had never played before. In the final 9 games, he was 3rd on the team in tackles, 2nd in sacks, and 1st in tackles for a loss. Although very raw, scouts saw his 6'5" size paired with his quickness, athletic ability, consistency, length, and foot speed, and thus projected him to go in the top 10 of the NFL Draft. Because Detroit was Detroit, Ziggy Ansah was pretty much a star, starting 73 out of 80 games and had 48 sacks and 218 tackles, but ended up being riddled with injuries before going on to play in Seattle, where he was injured even more, and then the 49ers before he disappeared altogether from NFL rosters. It's no surprise that the Cleveland Browns had the 6th pick in 2013, and you really knew that the quarterback list for that draft was just terrible when Cleveland, who almost always will try a new quarterback, selected Barkevious Mingo, a 6'5" 238-pound defensive end out of LSU. He was named to the 2nd team All-SEC team after recording 38 tackles, 8.5 tackles for a loss, 4.5 quarterback sacks, and a team-high 12 quarterback hurries. The Browns gave Mingo over $16 million and moved him to the outside linebacker position. After bruising his lung in the preseason, he went on to make 3 starts and appeared in 15 games and had 5 sacks, which would be his career high. He played through injuries the next 2 seasons, and by 2016 was traded to the New England Patriots and proceeded to play for 4 different teams. He was with the Falcons most recently, but was released this summer immediately after he was arrested in Texas on a 2nd-degree felony charge of indecency and sexual contact with a minor. The Arizona Cardinals went the offensive lineman route with their 2013 first-round pick as well, selecting Jonathan Cooper with the 7th overall pick, a guard from the University of North Carolina. The 311-pound big man had incredible speed for his size and excelled in zone schemes with a natural knack for the angle in college, but 3 weeks after inking Jonathan Cooper to his deal, he broke his leg and was placed on the injured list, missing the entire 2013 2016 season. In the next 2 seasons, he would only start 11 games and then was traded to the New England Patriots, where he would never see the field. He did start 13 games for the Dallas Cowboys in 2017, but once again would injure his knee in the last game of the season. He attempted a comeback but was out of the league in 2019. The Rams thought they were getting a playmaker in 2013 by drafting Tavon Austin in the first round. And after watching his highlights in college, you can't really blame the St. Louis Rams for using the 8th overall pick in the first round on him. He was expected to be a dominant wide receiver out of West Virginia, as he had been named a 2-time first-team All-American in college. The thing is that West Virginia had a lot of draft busts, and Tavon Austin was no different. St. Louis thought that his speed and his rushing skills would spread defenses out, and the Rams would have a brand new scoring threat, but it didn't work out that way. They were so enamored by him that they traded their 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 7th round selections to Buffalo in order to jump up 8 slots to grab the wideout. His rookie year, he only caught 40 passes for 418 yards with 4 receiving touchdowns. His second year was worse, with 31 receptions for 242 yards and no receiving touchdowns. Tavon Austin's best season was in 2015, where he emerged as a dual threat, catching 52 passes for 473 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns, while also rushing for 434 yards and 4 touchdowns. In 2016, he averaged just 4.8 yards per target, with the worst YPC rate amongst all receivers with at least 100 targets. In 2018, he was shipped off to the Dallas Cowboys, and for 2021, he ended up on the Jacksonville Jaguars IR list in September. University of Alabama football players are pretty much NFL locks, right? After all, they are competing against the best players in practices. In 2013, the NFL factory down in Tuscaloosa might have had a glitch. Dee Milliner, the former Crimson Tide defensive back that the New York Jets took 9th overall to replace Darrelle Revis, was not your typical Alabama prototype. An All-American who notched 51 tackles with 2 interceptions and 18 pass breakups, was good for 3rd on Alabama's single-season list. Thus, all signs pointed to him being a shutdown corner. However, after being named a starter, he was benched 3 times during his rookie year for getting beat. Then in October 2014, he tore his Achilles and was out the rest of the year. Before the NFL kicked off in 2015, he underwent wrist surgery and didn't see action until mid-November. He started 14 games total and hasn't stepped foot on the field since 2015. To round off the top 10 of the worst draft class ever, the Tennessee Titans selected guard Chance Warmack, also from the University of Alabama. I remember watching this draft, and as a Cowboy fan, I was so upset when this happened because I wanted Chance Warmack on the Dallas Cowboys. He had 3 national championships starting in 39 games, and thus was considered as a solid pick. He did start 48 games for the Tennessee Titans, but received really bad reviews as far as doing his job. Then he missed the bulk of the 2016 season with a hand injury, and the Titans failed to pick up his 5th-year option. The 11th pick in the NFL draft, guard DJ Fluker, had 4 terrible years in San Diego, and the number 12 pick, cornerback DJ Hayden, had 4 horrible years in Oakland before moving to the Lions. The Jets pick at number 13 was Sheldon Richardson, a defensive lineman out of Missouri, and he did all he could for New York. He even was used as a fullback during several games and scored a rushing touchdown. He made the Pro Bowl in 2014 and signed several deals with different teams, and this offseason inked his name with the Minnesota Vikings for his 2nd stint in Minnesota. With the 14th pick in the 2013 NFL draft, the Panthers picked a defensive tackle named Star Lotulelei out of Utah, a Tonga native who wasn't really bad at first. In fact, he was named to the All-Rookie team in 2013, but didn't quite live up to his name, as he probably will finish off his career in Buffalo. The Saints took Kenny Vaccaro with their 15th overall pick from the University of Texas, and after being named to the All-Rookie team, he was a consistent starter, but never a Pro Bowler in his 8 seasons with the Saints and Titans. The first quarterback taken in that draft was the Buffalo Bills, selecting Florida State signal caller EJ Manuel with the 16th overall pick when they had traded down 8 spots with the St. Louis Rams. Manuel was the only quarterback taken in the first round of the draft, where there shouldn't have been any QBs taken in the first few rounds. By the way, just as a precaution, that's what they were saying about the 2022 NFL draft, that there isn't a single starting quarterback in the entire NFL draft, just as a cautionary tale. In his rookie season, EJ Manuel posted a 4-6 record, which was good enough for the Buffalo Bills to name him a starter in 2014, but he had the special helmet for only 4 games before he was benched for Kyle Orton. at least the Buffalo Bills found a better quarterback a few years later. The Steelers thought about pass rushing for their first round pick with taking outside linebacker Jarvis Jones from Georgia 17th overall. However, he struggled in developing with only recording 6 sacks in 4 years in Pittsburgh. Thus, like most others on this list, he never lived up to the first round hype. At 18th overall, the 49ers grabbed safety Eric Reed from LSU, who made the Pro Bowl and the All-Rookie team his first year and became a solid starter with San Fran picking up his 5th-year option. He finished his career in 2019 with the Panthers, and the Giants would take offensive tackle Justin Pugh out of Syracuse with the 19th pick. And the Bears at 20 would take former Terrapin offensive tackle Kyle Long, son of Howie Long, who has been the better of the two linemen, especially after he moved inside. Is it fair to call former Notre Dame tight end Tyler Eifert, who was selected 21st overall by the Cincinnati Bengals, a draft bust since he had 13 touchdowns in 2015? Probably so, since the Ohio native and former University of Cincinnati tight end Travis Kelce slipped to the 3rd round of the 2013 NFL Draft. Eifert, who made one lone Pro Bowl in 2015, missed 52 games over 5 years and has just made 14 appearances since 2016. The Falcons had a good starter with the 22nd overall pick and cornerback Desmond Trufant, and even rewarded him with a $68.5 million contract in 2017. He's at the end of his career now, but was given another chance by the Las Vegas Raiders. At one point, Sharif Floyd, the University of Florida defensive tackle, was considered a top 10 pick, but dropped to number 23 to be selected by the Minnesota Vikings. He played in all 16 games his rookie season, and for the next 2 years seemed okay when he was on the field between foot and knee injuries. However, his career came to an end after one game in 2016, all thanks to a botched surgery where a simple knee cleanup procedure resulted in nerve damage. In 4 seasons with the Vikings, he managed 95 tackles, 9.5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. In 2018, Sharif Floyd filed a $180 million lawsuit against Dr. James Andrews, a renowned orthopedic surgeon whose underlings have been known to botch quite a few professional athletes' surgeries. The Colts, with the 24th overall pick, selected a German-born defensive end out of Florida State, Bjorn Warner, who didn't really play and was waived by Indianapolis in 3 seasons. After being cut by the Jacksonville Jaguars prior to the 2016 season, he headed back to Europe to grow the sport of football there. The Vikings' 25th overall pick was cornerback Xavier Rhodes, also out of Florida State, who ended up being a Pro Bowler for them for 3 years and an All-Pro in 2017, where they rewarded him with a $70 million contract extension. We finally found a good first-round pick from the 2013 NFL Draft, and it only took 25 picks. The 26th overall pick was another defensive tackle, Dayton Jones out of UCLA, who went to Green Bay. He was moved to a 3-4 end and never ended up being more than a rotational player. The Packers tried to convert him to an outside linebacker, but he only managed 10 career sacks and ended up being a journeyman rather than a franchise player. Now, the 27th overall pick was far from a bust. Wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins out of Clemson by the Houston Texans, and most of us are aware that the 5-time Pro Bowler and All-Pro player did the opposite of collapsing. At 28, the Broncos picked defensive tackle Sylvester Williams out of North Carolina, who was disappointing on his rookie contract. He bounced around, surviving to become a veteran, and is back in Denver on and off the practice squad. The Vikings had yet another first-round pick in 2013, and at 29 took wide receiver Cordero Patterson from Tennessee, who was a star as a return man, making the All-Pro list 4 times and Pro Bowl 3 times, but could never become a productive wide receiver or rusher in Minnesota. The Rams, with their second first-round pick, chose linebacker Alec Ogletree out of Georgia at number 30, who made the All-Rookie list, and after moving to the middle linebacker position in 2016, made the Pro Bowl and is now with the Bears. The Dallas Cowboys reached for a 3rd-round center named Travis Frederick out of Wisconsin with pick 31, who ended up being an awesome player, making the Pro Bowl 5 times even in 2019 after being diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome the season before. He retired with the Dallas Cowboys in 2020, and finally, with the last pick in the 1st round, the Baltimore Ravens selected safety Matt Elam from the University of Florida, who only played consistently for 2 seasons, with his play declining significantly his 2nd year. In 2000 2014, he missed the entire year with a biceps injury and only appeared in 9 games in 2016. He was arrested on drug-related charges and then grand theft in 2017. Needless to say, the first round of that 2013 NFL draft collapsed, but was on life support from the very start. As far as a bright light from the 2013 NFL draft, that would be DeAndre Hopkins, who was the 27th overall pick. Yet, looking further down on the sheet from that draft weekend, there ended up being some stars. Second round pick Le'Veon Bell, third round picks Travis Kelce and Tyrann Mathieu, fourth round pick David Bakhtiari, all who could have easily been a safer first round choice.